An overview of the Chinese writing system. What makes Chinese writing unique? The Chinese writing system is one of the world's oldest continuously used scripts. Unlike alphabetic systems, which represent sounds, Chinese characters primarily represent meaning, with sound components embedded inside many characters. This dual nature, visual meaning plus phonetic hints, gives the script both complexity and expressive power. Chinese characters are logographic. Each character corresponds to a morpheme, the smallest meaningful unit in the language. Over time, the system has evolved, but its core principles remain remarkably stable. The structure of characters. Most Chinese characters are built from smaller building blocks called radicals or semantic phonetic components. These parts help readers understand a character's meaning through the semantic component and guess its pronunciation through the phonetic component. Because of this system, thousands of characters can be created from a relatively small set of repeating elements, making the writing system both logical and highly efficient. The 6 traditional principles. Liu Shu. Ancient scholars categorize Chinese characters into 6 types, known as the 6 principles, or Liu Shu. These categories aren't perfect from a modern linguistic perspective, but they remain incredibly useful for understanding how characters are formed. The 6 types are pictographs, simple ideographs, compound ideographs, phonosemantic compounds, borrowed characters, and derived characters. Let's look at each one. 1. Pictographs, Xiangxingzi, are the earliest form of Chinese characters. They began as drawings of real objects and gradually became more stylized over time. For example, Shan represents mountains, Mu represents a tree, Rai represents the sun, Yue represents the moon, Ren represents a person. Even though modern characters look more abstract, you can still see the original shapes behind them. Characters that began as stylized drawings of objects. 2. Simple ideographs, Zhixizi. Simple ideographs express abstract ideas using symbolic marks. These characters don't depict objects, they represent concepts. Examples include Shang, meaning above. Let's start with the character Shang, meaning above. Imagine a simple horizontal line. This line represents the ground. Now, look at the short stroke placed above that line. It's like a tiny marker pointing upward. The character doesn't draw anything. It simply shows the idea of being higher than the baseline. That's why Shang means above. Xia meaning below. Now look at Xia, meaning below. We use the same idea. The horizontal line is the ground. But this time, the short stroke is placed below the line. It visually points downward, showing the concept of being lower than the baseline. So Xia naturally means below. The character Ben is a great example of how Chinese uses simple marks to express meaning. Start with the character Mu, which means tree. Now add a short horizontal line at the base of the tree. This extra line highlights the bottom, the root, the foundation, the origin. That's why Ben means root, origin, or fundamental. Ren can be understood as a character that visually points out the sharp edge of a knife. The base of the character is Dao, meaning knife, and the small additional stroke marks the exact location of the blade. This tiny line functions like an indicator, drawing the reader's attention to the cutting edge itself. In this sense, the character highlights the concept of blade by pointing directly to the part that cuts. These characters show how early Chinese writing used simple visual logic to express meaning. Characters that express abstract ideas through simple symbolic forms. 3. Compound ideographs, Hui Yi Zi. Compound ideographs combine 2 or more meaningful elements to create a new idea. This is like building meaning through visual composition. Examples include Xiu means rest because the character shows a person next to a tree. In ancient times, when people were tired, they would lean against a tree or rest in its shade. So the picture of person-eye tree naturally expresses the idea of taking a break. Ming means bright because it combines the sun and the moon, the two brightest lights in the sky. Putting them together creates the idea of brightness and clarity. Hao means good because it shows a woman and a child together. In traditional Chinese culture, this image represented harmony, safety, and goodness. Xin means trust or belief because the character combines a person on the left and speech on the right. In ancient Chinese culture, a person's words were expected to be honest and reliable. So the idea of a person at their speech naturally expresses trustworthy words, honesty, and faith, which is why Xin means trust, to believe, or to be true. These characters reveal how Chinese writing uses conceptual combinations to express ideas. Characters formed by combining two or more elements to create a new meaning. 4. Phonosemantic compounds, Xing Sheng Zi. This is the most important category. Over 80% of modern characters belong here. Phonosemantic compounds combine. In many Chinese characters, you'll see two parts working together. One part is the semantic component, which gives you a hint about the meaning. The other part is the phonetic component, which suggests how the character is pronounced. You can see this pattern in lots of everyday characters. For example, he has the water component Sandian Shui plus K for the sound. Ma uses the woman component Nu with Ma for the sound. Qing combines the Sunri with Qing for its pronunciation, and Qing uses the heart component Shin with the same phonetic Qing. Even Shi follows the pattern, with the water component Sandian Shui and Xian for the sound. Once you notice this structure, Chinese characters start to feel much more logical and predictable. Once you learn common components, you can guess both meaning and sound, which makes learning characters much easier. 5. Borrowed characters, Jia Ji Zi. Borrowed characters were originally used for one meaning, but later borrowed to write another word with the same pronunciation. Examples include, Lai originally means wheat, later borrowed to mean come. Lai did not originally mean come. In ancient writing, it was a picture of wheat plants with grains on top. Because the pronunciation matched another common word meaning to come, people eventually borrowed this character to write the verb come. Over time, the original meaning wheat disappeared, and the borrowed meaning became the main one. So Lai is a classic example of a character whose sound stayed the same, but meaning changed completely. Ziji de zi originally means nose, now means self. In ancient Chinese, Ziji de zi was a simple drawing of a nose. Why nose? Because when people refer to themselves, they often point to their own nose, a gesture still common in East Asia today. So the meaning shifted from the physical nose to the abstract idea of self, oneself, from oneself. This is a perfect example of how body language influenced character meaning. Bei originally means back to back, later north. The ancient form of bei showed two people sitting back to back, symbolizing turning away or opposite directions. Later, this idea of opposite directions was borrowed to represent the direction north, because in ancient Chinese cosmology, north was associated with cold winds and turning one's back to warmth. So, bei changed from a picture of two backs to the name of a direction. These characters show how language evolves naturally over time. Characters are borrowed to represent unrelated words with similar pronunciation. 6. Derived characters, Zhuanzhu Zi. Derived characters are the most debated category. They refer to characters that share meaning through extension or mutual interpretation. Examples often cited include Lao and Cao. In ancient Chinese thinking, older people were respected as wise and experienced. The character Lao means old, but from this idea comes Cao, meaning to test or to examine, something that wise elders could do. So the two characters are connected by the idea of age, leading to judgment and evaluation. Yi is about what is right, moral duty, justice, or meaning. Yi is about talking, discussing, debating, or deciding. The character Yi makes this very clear. Its left side is Yan, which means speech, showing that the action involves speaking. So when people speak seriously about what is right, what something means, or what decision should be made, that is Yi. In this way, Yi is like speaking about Yi, and the two characters are linked by the shared idea of meaning, principle, and judgment. This category is small and not essential for beginners, but it completes the traditional framework of the 6 principles. This is the most debated category and the least used in modern teaching. Simplified versus traditional characters. Simplified characters reduce stroke count and complexity, but both systems share the same underlying structure and historical roots. Today, Chinese is written in 2 main forms. Simplified characters are used in mainland China and Singapore, where many traditional characters were redesigned to have fewer strokes. Traditional characters are used in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and many overseas Chinese communities, and they preserve the older, more complex forms. Although the shapes look different, both systems share the same origins and represent the same language, so learning one helps you understand the other. Why understanding components helps. When you understand how characters are built, they stop looking like random strokes. You begin to see patterns and logic. Common components appear again and again. Sandian Shui means the water component. When you see Sandian Shui, it almost always tells you the word has something to do with water or liquids. So characters like Hai means ocean. He means river. Xi means to wash. All include Sandian Shui because oceans, rivers, and washing are all connected to water. Xin, the heart component. The component Xin represents the heart, and by extension, feelings, thoughts, and emotions. So characters like Qing means emotion, Xiang means to think, Mang means busy, heart not at ease. All use Xin because they describe inner feelings or mental activity. Xin relates to emotion or thought, Qing, Xiang, Mang, Huo, the fire component. The component Huo is linked to heat, burning, or light. So characters like Ri means hot, Shao means to burn, Deng means lamp, light. All include Huo because they involve heat, flame, or light. Nu, the woman component. The component Nu means woman, and it appears in many characters related to women, family, or femininity. For example, Ma means mother, Hao means good because the character combines a woman and a child, symbolizing harmony. Ji means older sister. These characters include Nu because their meanings are connected to women or family roles. Recognizing these components makes reading, memorizing, and guessing new characters much easier. Why learning characters matters. Even though modern Chinese is spoken with a relatively small set of syllables, characters allow the language to distinguish thousands of words clearly. Characters also preserve cultural heritage, historical meaning, and visual beauty. For learners, understanding character structure, especially semantic and phonetic components, makes memorization far more efficient. How characters support literacy. Because characters encode meaning visually, they help readers recognize words even when pronunciation varies across dialects, understand new vocabulary through familiar components, read efficiently once core patterns are mastered. This is why Chinese literacy depends heavily on recognizing high-frequency characters and understanding how they combine. The Chinese writing system is not just a method of recording language. It's a window into history, culture, and human creativity.